Hello everyone, welcome back to the Mental Health Experience. Today I wanted to talk about something, this topic is talked about a lot through psychologists, psychiatry, mental health experts, gurus alike, common folk, and it's about social media. There's tens of talks on social media about how social media is really bad. There's a new documentary that came out called The Social Dilemma. And even though social media itself, the application has been proven to have a lot of addictive properties, how they have attention engineers, and they talk about how every time you hear that ring, it's almost like a slot machine going off in your head. So you're kind of rewiring your dopamine response system. But is social media the number one cause of your anxiety? No. So in society, we are always looking for an external cause to validate an internal problem. Why is that? A is most people don't understand how to change cognitive distortion or behavioral patterns. Most people don't have the persistence to stay with it because learning rational thinking is almost like learning a new language, and it could take years. Changing your external environment is a false illusion. It also gives you a sense of security and comfort knowing that you don't have to do anything, and you could just have this fake, false premise that changing something else other than yourself is going to fix your internal discomfort. So what we have in life, and this is the teachings of Dr. Ellis, who created cognitive behavioral therapy, which I say is the gold standard for all psychotherapy. So we have an ABC, okay? We have an activating event, we have a belief, and we have a consequence. Now, the way society works and the way that gurus and people in TED Talks push everything on almost all topics are trauma. So you have a childhood trauma A. That A, your activating event, has caused your C, your emotional consequence. No. Your A can contribute to it a little bit. It's not validated by any means because some people have very severe traumas. Some people do have much more serious predispositions physiologically and neurobiochemically to addiction. But the main thing that's causing your emotional distress is your B, your belief about the situation, your perspective. So a lot of people will say social media is the reason I'm depressed or I'm anxious. Well, let's break that down. Social media is an inanimate object. Okay, so more than likely, scrolling through this is what I see all the time on these sites. Scrolling through social media is the reason why I'm depressed. You have to stop scrolling. Well, in 15 years from now, are we going to have a DSM-5 diagnostic, or maybe even DSM-6 diagnostic criteria for social media addiction? More than likely, yes. But the research on social media addiction, adult site addiction, video game addiction is still so new. And because there's not a substance being injected directly into your physiology, they don't know how to classify it. This isn't to validate that some addictions are harder than others and so on and so forth. Each addiction has their own complications, life burdens, burden on money, quality of life, and so forth, to categorize them as an addiction. But the problem is, are these things the actual cause of your emotional distress or your anxiety? And more than likely, the answer is no. This isn't to say that it doesn't contribute, but when it comes down to it, let's break that down, as I said before I got off on a little bit of a tangent, very, very low. If you hear my dogs barking in the background, I had to lock my one dog up. So social media is causing me to be... Hold on one second. I'll be right back in 1 second. Hey, come here. Okay. So, and since I have no editing skills, I have no idea how to clip those together. So, and I'm not restarting the video. So, when you're scrolling through social media and you're looking at things, it comes down to two things, okay? Either three: unconditional self, life or other acceptance? I struggle the most with unconditional other acceptance. I struggle with accepting people for their fallacies and who they are, and if they're not as educated, because a lot of people that have higher educations put themselves on a pedestal, so they put themselves in a superiority complex, and that's just another whole entire 50-minute video I could do on the irrational beliefs behind that and why that can be potentially problematic. So when you're scrolling through social media and you start seeing people, it doesn't matter if they're using filters or not. I mean, it's funny to bring it up, but it actually is a huge problem. It's a problem for the person that's posting the filters all the time, and it's a problem for the person that's thinking the filters are real. And the problem is that you are not approaching these situations with unconditional self-acceptance. And that's really, really hard because this whole entire society is built off conditional everything. So Dr. Albert Ellis has a book called The Myth of Self-Esteem. It's probably one of the best. The Myth of Self-Esteem and How to Stubbornly Refuse to Make Yourself Miserable would be more than likely the most beneficial books taught in grade school, because it would teach people how to understand rational thinking and go throughout life realizing that they are the main cause of their emotional misery. And this is a really, really big problem because we live so conditionally, and that's what self-esteem is. Self-esteem is a myth. It's not real because it's always conditional. In order for me to be self-esteem, I have to do X to get Y or feel Y. Instead of, I might be happier. I'm happy with the way I look. I'm not as happy as I could be, but I can accept myself and still enjoy many things in life. This isn't to say that you can't have passion, but to be over concerned, as I talked about in a previous video, is the problem. So when you're scrolling through social media and you have this conditional acceptance behavioral pattern programmed in us, everyone since birth, I've never met a single person that hasn't lived their life almost fully conditionally unless they have to go through the type of learning process to realize basically the basis of stoicism, to realize rational thinking, that a lot of the things society teaches us as kids, reassurance behaviors and everything like that, are the main reasons of our emotional distress as we get older. So this is a big problem. So when you're scrolling and you see things that, oh man, this person's leaner than I am, oh, this person's prettier than I am, what you're doing is you're not living unconditionally. That doesn't mean that you're never going to have a thought to say, well, it would be cool to be a little bit better looking or a little bit leaner. I can do certain things in life maybe to get myself in better shape, and so forth, or put myself in the position to maybe have that boat that you see on Instagram. But the people put their self-worth on these materialistic objects, and then they compare themselves to other people, which again is conditional self-acceptance and not unconditional self-acceptance. And then for someone like me, we go throughout life and we like to compare ourselves to other people. And then when we feel better, when someone says something we don't agree with, we automatically put them down and we judge them. This isn't to say you're never going to judge again, because I think that would be unrealistic in itself. But you could approach that cognitively through a change of thought. Even though I don't agree with this person, doesn't mean it writes this person off as a human. Even if they have completely different views on politics, religion, money, or anything, or marriage, that's one. Politics, for an example, is one category of someone's perspective. Okay, a lot of people say, well, it dictates their whole entire life. They like food, they like to talk about movies and girls or guys or anything like that, or music or skeletons in the back. So politics is just one aspect of someone's life, but people will put their whole entire self-worth on other person's self-worth on one aspect of their life and write them off. And what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for potential disaster, because now you can't have those difficult conversations, and you're going towards utopianism, where you think everything in life should be perfect when fairness and deservingness don't exist. We can't prove it scientifically. We can't prove that there's a universal law saying that fairness and deservingness is real, because kids die of cancer every single day. So that's just the reality of why social media is not the main cause of your emotional distress. And this is what a lot of the TED Talks talk about. They say social media, the activating event of scrolling, for example, is the main cause of your C, your emotional disturbance. When that it might play a part, a tiny part, but the majority is coming from your irrational belief that you're not good enough. Jealousy is always unconditional self-acceptance or other acceptance. Uh, Thinking that life has deservingness and fairness, unconditional life acceptance, realizing that you could die at any moment, that someone in your family could die today, that children die, that people live in poverty. So we are brought up in this fake environment of just everything is supposed to go the way we want it to, when nothing in life is supposed to go the way we want it to. And even with like stuff on social media, these business accounts, positive affirmations, I personally think positive affirmations are absolutely useless. I think mantras are useless too. They're very surface level and don't get underneath the behavioral or irrational belief. It's nice to hear stuff like a business guy smoking a cigar. Everyone's born to do something great, but that's not true. Most people are not born to do something great. Most people live mediocre lives. And there's nothing wrong with that when you have unconditional self acceptance. That's not saying you can't put the work in to change your life patterns or your behavioral patterns. But the thing is, even if you do everything right, you're not guaranteed success. For every one Instagram, there's a million people who failed. I guarantee there's a decent amount of them that's put a lot of money into startups and did everything right. They got up at the right time in the morning, they put the work in, and they never got successful. Because you're not guaranteed anything, even if you do everything properly. Let's say that again. You're not guaranteed anything, even if you do everything properly. Even if you study all the right material for the test, it doesn't mean you're supposed to pass. The test could be worded different than you thought. So this is a huge problem with social media. Now, the last thing I wanted to end this on was, do I think social media is inherently good or bad? Absolutely not. I think it's completely context dependent. And when people talk in absolute and black and whites, there's very few things I think are absolutes in this life. Death is obviously one of them. We always joke taxes are absolute, but severe. Like I don't believe that you could use heroin in moderation. I'm sure there are people out there who have done it with the right mindset, which is crazy to think about. But social media is not inherently bad, and there's nothing to prove that statistically. Now, do we know that that could change in the future? We don't know. There's a lot of different subjective and anecdotes out there, a lot of research. But I think if you want to use social media in a manner to where it's not really affecting your life, it's going towards unconditional and other acceptance, from how to stubbornly refuse to make yourself miserable, the myth of self-esteem. Dr. Albert Ellis has written 75 books, and he's probably the best psychotherapist to ever have lived, in my opinion, ever. He literally created what the gold standard is for every mental health disorder today, still 30, 40 years later. So I limit myself on how I use my social media, and it's not easy. You're going to make mistakes. That's why compassion is really important. So what I do is I don't allow myself, or try not to use my Facebook if I'm not sitting at my computer. I don't check it while I'm driving. It's really hard. This shows you how addictive these things can be for someone like me who loves dopamine response and loves the rush and stuff like that, and has other addictions as well. And stuff like that. So I'm in a bunch of WhatsApp groups from people all around the world. I have friends in Pakistan, Holland. So I try to keep it, which is hard because we talk every day, but we live in different big time zones. My buddy who lives in Pakistan is 12 hours ahead. So it's a balance, and you're gonna fall off the horse sometimes. It's about getting back up. So, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this breaks down why social media isn't the main cause of your emotional distress, but it can play a slight factor. But the main thing is coming from your beliefs. I thank you guys for listening. Have a great day.